Hello everyone. Today's SQL interview question is: how would you handle duplicate records in a production database? This is very common question asked for 10 plus years experienced SQL developers, especially in banking, healthcare, telecom and e-commerce projects. So the interviewer is not checking whether you know the row number of function. They are checking whether you know how to safely handle duplicate records in a live production environment. Let's understand this with a real time scenario. So imagine you are working on an online shopping application. One morning, the business team reports that some customers have been charged twice because duplicate order records were created in the order table. The table contains nearly 500 million records and the application is running 24 by 7. So the business gives you for important conditions, that is, don't stop the application and don't lock the entire table. Also, don't lose any customer data and remove only the duplicate records. Now the interviewer asks, how would you solve this problem? At this point, many developers immediately think about writing a delete query. But that's not the right approach. In production, we should never delete data without first understanding the root cause and ensuring data safety. So the first step is not deleting duplicates. The first step is understanding why duplicates were created. There could be several reasons. Maybe the table does not have a unique constraint or unique index, or sometimes the application sends the same request twice because of a retry mechanism. In ETL projects, the same source file may be loaded multiple times accidentally. Sometimes a manual data correction script inserts duplicate records, or replication and synchronization issues may create duplicates. If we simply delete the duplicate rows without fixing the actual problem, the duplicates will come back again. So always remember, don't just clean the data, fix the process that create the bad data. Then, how would we resolve that? So, once I have identified the root cause, I start the cleanup process. The first thing I do is take a backup of the affected records. In production, we never perform delete operations without having a recovery option. So, next, I identify duplicate records using the row number function. So, I partition the data based on the business key, such as order ID and customer ID, and keep the first valid record. Any record where the row number is greater than 1 is considered a duplicate record. So, before deleting those records, I archive them into a separate archive table. This gives us a rollback option if the business later requests the deleted data. So, instead of deleting millions of records in a single transaction, I delete them in a small batches, such as a 5,000 or 10,000 rows at a time. This minimizes blocking, reduces transaction log growth, and avoids long running logs. So, after each batch, I compare the record counts between the production table and the archive table to ensure accuracy. Only after successful validation do I commit the transaction. So, finally, I write all execution details, including batch ID, execution time, rows deleted, status, and any errors into an audit table. This provides complete traceability for future investigations. So, then removing duplicates solves today's problem, but preventing them solves tomorrow's problem. So, the next step is prevention. So, if the business allows it, I create a unique constraint or unique index on the appropriate business key columns. This ensures SQL Server itself prevents duplicate data. In the application layer, I validate whether the record already exists before performing an insert. If we are using ETL tools like SSIS or ADF, I include duplicate validation before loading the data into the target table. If appropriate, I use merge or upset logic to update existing records instead of inserting duplicates. I also implement monitoring and alerts so that if duplicate records suddenly increase, the support team is notified immediately. The goal is not just to remove duplicates but to make sure they never happen again. Okay, in the real time scenario, now let's answer this exactly as we would in an interview. If the interviewer asks, how would you handle duplicate records in a production database? Then, how we have to tell? In production, I would never directly delete duplicate records. So, first I identify the root cause and take a backup of the affected data. Then I use the row number of function to identify duplicate records based on the business key while retaining the correct record. Before deletion, I archive the duplicate data into a separate table. So I delete duplicates in a small batches using control transactions to minimize blocking and transaction log growth. So after each batch, I validate the record counts. So commit the transaction and log all execution details in audit tables. Finally, I prevent future duplicates by implementing unique constraints, indexes, application validations, and ETL duplicate checks. Then I did not say I will simply write a delete statement. So instead, I explain the entire production process from identifying the issue to preventing it in the future. So that's exactly what interviewers expect from someone with 10 plus years of experience. Handling duplicate records is not just about deleting extra rows, it's about finding the root cause and protecting business data, also avoiding production downtime, then maintaining data integrity and preventing future issues. That's what differentiates a junior SQL developer from a senior SQL developer. So thanks for watching. Follow for more advanced SQL interview questions with real world production scenarios. Thank you.